pressure your child to make quick money after watching this video. In the heart of Abuja, where wealth often defines worth, a mother's dream for her daughter to escape poverty turns into a nightmare of greed, betrayal, and devastating consequences. This is the tragic story of Ezinne, a brilliant young woman whose life spirals out of control when ambition overshadows integrity. Ezinne is a 20-year-old medical student living with her family in Abuja. She stays with her mother in the suburb called Papi. Her mother, Mrs. Ifoma, works as a fruit seller, barely scraping together enough to pay for Ezinne's education and provide for her two younger siblings, Nkem and Uchi. When Mrs. Ifoma loses her market stall due to a fire outbreak, she managed outside somewhere at a corner, still struggling to sell her fruit to passerby. Things became tougher and she becomes desperate for a solution. Chief Obodo, a wealthy businessman who offers to fund Ezinne's education if she agrees to smuggle drugs for him, is seen talking to Ezinne's mother. Ezinne is horrified by the offer, but her mother pressures her relentlessly, painting the opportunity as their only escape from poverty. Ezinne reluctantly agrees, promising herself it will be just one trip. Ezinne successfully smuggles drugs to a neighboring country, earning her family a significant payout. Mrs. Ifoma is elated and urges Ezinne to continue. Ezinne agrees but begins feeling uneasy about her actions. The money starts flowing in and the family moves into a better home. Ezinne's mother, Mrs. Ifoma, begins to indulge in luxuries, ignoring Ezinne's growing discomfort. Meanwhile, Ezinne's younger siblings admire her, unaware of her secrets. Ezinne's first international trip to Europe is a success. She earns a massive payout and her family is ecstatic. However, during her stay abroad, she met Chuks, another drug dealer, who offers her bigger profits if she works for him instead of Chief Obodo. Tempted by Chuk's offer, Ezinne breaks her contract with Chief Obodo. Back in Abuja, Chief Obodo is enraged when he discovered her betrayal and begins threatening Mrs. Ifoma, warning her that the family will pay dearly for Ezinne's disloyalty. Ezinne, emboldened by her success, ignores Chief Obodo's threats and continues working with Chuks. She begins using drugs herself to cope with the stress and guilt, slowly descending into addiction. With Chief Obodo's influence, authorities raid Ezinne's home in Abuja, seizing money and drugs planted by his men. Mrs. Ifoma pleads for her daughter's release, but Ezinne is taken into custody for questioning. She is eventually released due to the lack of evidence, but is now a target of Chief Obodo's wrath. Ezinne relocates her family to Lagos, hoping to escape Chief Obodo's reach. However, her drug addiction worsens and she becomes increasingly reckless in her operations. Mrs. Ifoma watches helplessly as Ezinne's behavior becomes erratic. Her once promising daughter is now a shadow of herself, consumed by the very trade that brought them wealth. One fateful night, Chief Obodo's men stormed Ezinne's house in Lagos, intending to kidnap her. Unfortunately, Ezinne is not home, and in their frustration, they murdered her 2 younger siblings, Nkem and Uchi. Mrs. Ifeoma is devastated by the loss of her children. Overcome with grief, she falls gravely ill, blaming herself for pressuring Ezinne into the dangerous lifestyle that brought ruin upon their family. She keeps this to herself. 2 weeks after, Ezinne is back from her international trip. She is devastated to hear this bad news. Ezinne, consumed by rage and guilt, vows revenge against Chief Obodo. She becomes more aggressive in her operations, now using violence to protect herself and her remaining family. Ezinne's reckless behavior draws the attention of the law enforcement. She is now a wanted criminal, but she evades capture by constantly changing locations. Mrs. Ifeoma, who has been sick since the death of her children, tries to warn Ezinne to turn away from a life of crime and seek redemption. Ezinne is torn between her mother's plea and her thirst for vengeance. She embarks on another international mission, hoping to secure enough money to leave the drug trade forever. However, her operation is betrayed and she is caught at the airport with a large stash of drugs. Ezinne is arrested and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Her dreams of revenge and redemption are shattered as she faces the reality of her actions. In prison, Ezinne begins to reflect on her life. She realizes how greed and desperation destroyed her family and vows to dedicate her time to warning others about the dangers of quick money. Ezinne is serving her 2nd year in the prison when the sad news of her mother's death reached her. Now she has no family, she has lost her mother and her siblings, all because of a dirty business deal. She has lost her chances of becoming a medical doctor and having a good life. However, Ezinne has found a new path. She is now a motivational speaker and a writer. Years later, Ezinne writes a book from the prison, sharing her tragic story. It becomes a bestseller, serving as a stark warning to families about the devastating consequences of greed and unethical shortcuts. 15 years is over and Ezinne is out of prison to start her life afresh. Many who had read her books and heard of her story started reaching out to her. Top business organizations, schools, conferences invites her to speak. Several years later, Ezinne is engaged to a humble guy called Emeka. They moved to Enugu and started their life. Moral lesson: quick wealth often comes as an unpayable price. Pressuring children into unethical paths for financial gain can destroy not only their future, but the entire family. True success requires patience, integrity, and hard work.